They told me I was dead weight, a parasite. Now they can't stop calling. My name is Rayam. I'm 29 years old, and I used to be a software developer. Not famous, not rich, just a quiet guy with big dreams and an old laptop. My story doesn't start with success. It starts with silence, deep, painful silence. It was my birthday. I had picked up a small cake from a corner shop. I told the cashier it was for someone else, but it wasn't. It was just for me. I brought it home, placed a single candle in the center, and lit it. Then I waited. I waited for my phone to ring, for someone to say, "Happy birthday, Rayam." For one simple message. Just one. But nothing came. Not from my mom. Not from my brother. Not from my sister. 3 years ago, they used to call me the golden child. I was the one who helped pay the bills, the one who sent money every month, the one who always picked up the phone when they needed something. But now that I had nothing, they had disappeared. I sat in my kitchen with that cake in front of me. The candle flickered softly in the dark. I didn't sing. I didn't make a wish. I just stared at the flame until the wax ran down the sides. That moment changed everything. I wasn't angry. I wasn't crying. I was just still, like something inside me had frozen. That night, I understood something important. I wasn't just broke. I wasn't just alone. I had been left behind. And that was the day I made a quiet promise to myself. This would be the last birthday I ever spent waiting on people who only loved me when I had something to give. Growing up, I used to believe my family was unbreakable. We had dinner together every night, not fancy meals, just rice and chicken or sandwiches, but we laughed around the table like we were the happiest people in the world. My parents weren't rich, but they worked hard. My big brother was the smart one, always getting top grades. My little sister was the gentle one, always smiling and helping Mom. And me? I was the quiet one, the dreamer. The one who loved computers more than sports or video games. When I turned 12, I got my first computer, secondhand, slow, and full of glitches. But to me, it was magic. I'd stay up late, trying to figure out how it worked. I started watching free coding videos and building little games. While my friends talked about cartoons, I talked about code. As I grew older, my dream got bigger. I didn't want just a job. I wanted to create something of my own. I wanted to build a tech company that would help small businesses, people like my parents who struggled with money and needed better tools. After college, I didn't go straight into a 9-to-5 job like my brother or sister. I chose to freelance. It wasn't easy, but I believed in my dream. I took small jobs online, wrote lines of code late at night, and saved every penny I could. Sometimes I made just enough to buy instant noodles and pay the internet bill. But I didn't complain. At first, my family cheered me on. "You'll be a big boss one day," my dad would say, smiling. Mom would bring me tea while I typed away on my keyboard. They believed in me, or at least it seemed like they did. Then life started testing me. My dad got sick. He needed heart surgery and the bills were high. Without thinking twice, I gave them all my savings, money I had saved for my first big launch. "Don't worry," I told myself. "There's always time to build again." Later, my sister called me in tears. Her husband had been yelling at her, breaking things, saying cruel things. I picked her up at night, gave her my tiny room to sleep in, and even paid part of her rent for 3 months. I never asked for anything in return. Then my mom lost her job. I picked up 2 extra freelance gigs and sent money home every week. Even when it meant skipping meals for myself, I didn't think of these things as favors. I thought that's what family did. You help each other. You hold each other up when one person falls. But when I fell, no one held me. When my startup crashed and my bank account went dry, everything changed. My messages were left unread. My calls went to voicemail. Days turned into weeks. I started seeing my family's lives continue on social media, smiling. Pictures, birthday parties, new clothes, like then I wasn't part of any of it. I remember texting my brother, "Can we talk?" He replied the next day with, "Kinda busy this week, bro, what's up?" I never replied. What was the point? The worst moment came when I asked my mom if I could stay at her place for just a week. 1 week, after my landlord kicked me out. She paused and said, "You need to figure things out on your own now." It hit me hard. I had given everything I had: time, money, support, love. But when I needed just a little bit back, there was nothing. I remember cleaning out my room. The mattress was thin. The desk I used for coding had a cracked leg. But the hardest thing to pack was a photo I had taped to the wall, a childhood picture of me, my brother, and my sister hugging each other in front of our old house. I pulled it down slowly, stared at it. Then, without thinking, I tore it straight, down the middle. I kept the half with my younger self. The other half? I crumpled it into a ball and tossed it in the trash. Not because I hated them. I didn't. I was just tired. Tired of giving and being forgotten. That night, lying on the floor of an almost empty room, I whispered something into the dark. One day they'll remember me. But by then, I won't need them to. After I left my apartment, I lived in my car. It was a small, old hatchback that made strange noises whenever I started the engine. I parked in quiet streets at night and covered the windows with towels so no one would look inside. The back seat became my bed. My clothes were in a duffel bag. My toothbrush sat in the glove box. I used public bathrooms to wash my face. I ate cheap snacks or sometimes skipped meals to save money. During the day, I found libraries, parks, or coffee shops with free Wi-Fi. I sat in the corner with my laptop and tried to work. Most people didn't notice me. I looked tired, maybe. A little dirty, but I still wore clean clothes. I kept my head down. Some nights were colder than others. I remember one night I couldn't sleep. My stomach was empty. The air was cold. And I kept asking myself, is this really my life now? After everything I did for them? But I didn't give up. Even in that car, I kept working on a small software project I had started a year ago, a tool for managing customer orders and business emails. It wasn't special, just simple and helpful. I had built the early version during long nights. I called it Cleanbox. I still believed it could work. I still believed in something. One day I stood in line at a soup kitchen. I had my laptop in my bag and I was holding a tray of soup and bread. A man in line behind me noticed my screen when I opened it. "You made that back end yourself?" he asked, pointing at the code. I turned, surprised. "Yeah. Why?" He smiled. "That's clean work. I'm a developer too. I haven't seen that kind of logic in a while." His name was Yusuf. He was in his 40s and used to work for a mid-sized tech firm. We talked while eating soup on a bench outside. I told him my story, but not everything. Just enough. Yusuf didn't feel sorry for me. He respected the work. "Know a startup that needs help," he said. "They can't pay much, but it's something." He gave me a name and an email. That night I connected to library Wi-Fi from the parking lot and sent a short message with a sample of my work. 2 days later, I got a reply. "Can we hop on a Zoom call?" I borrowed clothes from a donation bin and wore my best smile. The call lasted 10 minutes. I got the job. The pay was low, but it was honest. I cried quietly in my car after reading the offer email. It wasn't just money. It was hope. Over the next 6 months, I took more small contracts. I lived like a ghost. No parties, no friends, no noise. Just work, eat, sleep. Sometimes I bought coffee just to use cafe Wi-Fi longer. I learned how to stretch $20 over a whole week. Then one evening, while watching the sunset from inside my car, I reopened the Cleanbox project. I had an idea. A better way to automate replies, organize requests, and save time for busy teams. I started coding that night and didn't stop until sunrise. Every night after that, I added more features. After a few months, I uploaded it quietly to a software testing site. Some users found it and liked it. Then more users came. A friend of Yusuf's, a venture builder, reached out and offered to help me turn it into something real. I agreed. We registered the company under a clean name, Bright Shore Labs. I kept my name out of it. No one, and not even my family, knew. That was on purpose. Around that same time, I started getting messages again. "Hey, just checking in. How are you doing?" My sister wrote. Mom sent, "Hope you're keeping warm these days. You're in my prayers." My brother added, "Still doing your computer stuff?" I didn't reply. They weren't reaching out because they missed me. They were curious. They had heard something. A whisper. A rumor. They didn't know about Cleanbox. They didn't know I now owned 40% of a growing platform with monthly users and international interest. They just knew I was back online, and probably doing better than before. But they didn't know how far I had come, and I wasn't about to tell them. Because this time I wasn't building something for them to take, I was building something they would never touch again. About a week before my company deal was set to close, I got a strange envelope in the mail. No return address. No handwritten note. Just a formal wedding invitation. It was from my sister. I held it in my hands and stared at the gold writing. The card said, "You are invited to celebrate our special day." It listed the date, the resort name, and a fancy dress code. But something felt cold. There was no +1, no personal message, no hope you can make it. It felt like it was sent out of duty, like I was being invited only because it would look bad if I wasn't. Still, I called her. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe this was her way of starting over. She picked up after a few rings. Her voice was cheerful. At first, "Oh, you got the invite? Great," she said. I paused for a second, then asked, "So, was this really meant for me?" She laughed. "I mean, yeah. Come if you can afford it. If you can afford it." She said it like a joke, like I was still sleeping in my car, like I was still the same guy they could laugh at. That sentence didn't just hurt. It cracked something deep inside me. After everything I had done for her, after I gave her a place to live, after I stayed up with her during her divorce, after I helped her start over. Now I was a punchline. I didn't say much after that, just, "Okay," and hung up. That night, I sat on my small bed and held the invitation again. I didn't cry. I just felt numb. Then my phone buzzed. It was my mom. I stared at her name for a long time. I hadn't heard from her in almost 2 years, not once during the hardest months of my life. Her message said, "Hey, sweetie, do you think you could help out with your sister's wedding venue? It's just a little over budget, let me know." No, "How are you?" No, "I'm sorry." No warmth, just a request, a bill. That's when it all clicked. They hadn't changed. They weren't reaching out because they missed me. They thought I had something again, and now they wanted a piece of it. Not my love, not my time, just my money. That was the moment I hit my breaking point. It wasn't loud. I didn't throw things. I didn't scream. It was quiet. Like watching the end of a long movie and finally understanding the story. I walked to the kitchen sink. I took the invitation, struck a match, and watched it burn. The paper curled, the letters turned black, and a soft trail of smoke rose toward the ceiling. I felt no guilt, no fear, just peace. That flame didn't just eat paper. It burned the last piece of me that believed they would ever come back with love in their hearts. The next day, I went back to work. We were finalizing the company buyout. Investors were happy. Lawyers were busy. The deal was big, much bigger than anyone expected. I signed the papers using the name I had chosen for my new life. I had changed it legally 6 months earlier. A new last name, a fresh start, no ties. From that day forward, I wasn't just Rayam who once failed. I was someone new, someone they wouldn't recognize until it was too late. I didn't yell. I didn't post anything online. I didn't tell anyone what I was planning. I just stayed quiet. The company deal went through 2 days later. The money came in, the papers were signed, and I became part owner of a fast-growing tech business. I didn't celebrate with noise. I didn't throw a party. I just sat on my bed, took a deep breath, and stared at my laptop. Then I opened a browser and typed in the name of the resort my sister had picked for her wedding. I had seen it on her social media months ago. She was so proud of it. Lakeview. Pines, she wrote. It's going to be the perfect day. I checked the date she had picked. I called the resort. Hi, I said. I'd like to book the executive lake suite for those exact dates, please. They checked. It's still available, they said. I booked it. Then I booked 2 more event halls, not for me, but for something better. I called a local charity that helps couples who can't afford weddings. I told them I wanted to sponsor 3 full weddings, same weekend, same resort. I paid for their dresses, their food, their music, everything. I asked for no credit. I used a clean business name, no link to me. Then I started contacting vendors, photographers, caterers, DJs, decorators, every vendor I knew my sister might want. I booked them all for the same weekend, quietly, carefully. One by one, she started, hearing, "Sorry, that date's already taken." The resort manager called her. "I'm afraid we're double booked. Something went wrong in the system. You'll need to reschedule." She posted online, "Ugh, wedding delay, this is so stressful." I didn't smile, I didn't clap, I just watched in silence, because I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was showing her something, the same cold feeling I once felt, the feeling of being pushed aside, forgotten, replaced. Still, I wasn't done. I had written my story, the real story. I called it From Car Seat to CEO. I sent it to a popular business podcast. I didn't write it with anger. I wrote it with truth, clear, calm, and full of quiet pain. I shared how I had failed, how I had lived in my car, how no one answered when I needed help. I shared how I found strength again. The host loved it. They booked me for an interview. The same weekend my sister's wedding had been planned. While she was calling vendors trying to fix the mess, I was sitting in a quiet studio with a microphone in front of me. They asked, "What pushed you to keep going?" I answered, "When you lose everything and everyone disappears, you have 2 choices, give up or grow stronger." I chose to grow. The episode was set to go live Sunday morning. The night before it aired, I checked into the resort. I wore simple clothes. No one recognized me. I walked past the event halls and saw families laughing, taking pictures, dancing. Couples were getting married, couples who thought they'd never get the chance. That made me smile. I didn't steal a day from my sister. I gave joy to others instead, and no one knew it was me behind it all. Not yet. The morning sun poured through the resort windows. I sat on the balcony of the executive lake suite, sipping warm tea and watching the mist rise over the water. Birds chirped in the distance. The lake shimmered in the light. It was peaceful. Below me, I saw wedding decorations being set up, but not for my sister. These were for the couples I had helped. I watched the staff roll out chairs, tie flowers to the railing, and bring out speakers for the music. Then my phone buzzed. A notification popped up. New episode from Car Seat to CEO, The Quiet Rise of a Developer. The podcast was live. I put my phone on silent and let it play through a small Bluetooth speaker. My voice came through, calm and soft. I talked about how I had once slept in the back seat of my car. I talked about soup kitchens, library Wi-Fi, and coding through the night. I didn't mention any names, I didn't blame anyone. I just told the truth, every quiet, painful part of it. Within hours, the episode spread fast. Listeners shared it on Twitter and LinkedIn. People commented, "This story gave me chills." Some said it made them cry. Others said it gave them hope. Tech bloggers picked it up. Reddit users made a thread. It climbed to the front page. By the afternoon, it was trending. Then the calls started. First came my mom. I didn't answer. Then my sister. Then my brother. Again and again. They left. Messages. "Hey, I heard the podcast. That's your voice, right? I didn't know it was that bad. Can we talk, please?" I sat in the spa that evening, wrapped in a soft robe, feet in warm water. The phone buzzed quietly in my pocket. I didn't move. Wasn't ignoring them to be mean. I just didn't need to answer anymore. I had already spoken, not to them but to the world. And this time, they couldn't interrupt or change the story. Later that evening, my sister found out the truth. She had asked the resort who had booked the lake suite. The name they gave didn't match mine, not at first. But she did some digging. She followed the company name, traced the charity bookings, and saw the connection. She called again. I still didn't pick up. Instead, I walked through the garden paths behind the resort. I passed one of the weddings I had paid for. A bride stood under the lights, laughing as her new husband wiped a happy tear from her cheek. Guests clapped, music played. Joy filled the air. That was what I wanted. Not to ruin something, but to replace the pain I once felt with something better. Still, I knew the biggest realization was yet to come. That night, my sister posted on her story, "I think my brother just made the whole world fall in love with him, and I don't even know how to say sorry." The next morning, a tech news site wrote a full article about me. My photo, my story, and the title of the episode all sat beside a headline. From Broke to Brilliant, The Silent Rise. Of Bright Shore's founder, my name was now public, my new name. That's when the truth hit them fully. The person they had ignored, the man they once laughed at, the parasite they thought had nothing left, was the owner of the brand, the buyer of the resort suite, the one who canceled the wedding without saying a word. But I hadn't canceled it out of hate. I had simply taken back the space they tried to push me out of and filled it with joy, love, and quiet power. That was my justice. Not loud, not cruel. Just complete. I never returned their calls, not because I was angry, not because I wanted to punish them, but because I had nothing left to say. I didn't need an apology anymore. I didn't need them to understand what I went through. That part of my life had ended, and I was finally okay with that. A few weeks after the podcast went viral, I bought a small house. It wasn't big or flashy, just a quiet place with a wooden fence and a small backyard. There was a garden in the back where I planted flowers and a little vegetable patch. Wind chimes hung near the porch. When the wind blew, they made a soft, peaceful sound. It was in the same town I had grown up in, just a few blocks away from my old street. Sometimes when I go for a walk, I pass by their houses. I see my mom watering plants. I see my sister walking her dog. I see my brother getting into his car. They see me too. But no one waves. And that's okay. I'm not the same person I was before. I'm not the tired, scared guy sleeping in a car. I'm not the helper who was always saying yes. I'm not the one begging to be seen. I'm someone new now. With some of the money from the company, I set up a scholarship fund at my old high school. I named it quietly. No photo, no press. Just a chance for one kid each year who feels unseen, unheard, or forgotten. I also started a small program for people like me, people who once had nothing. We give them a place to stay, a laptop, and a coach to guide them. I wanted to be the helping hand I never had. Sometimes I sit outside in my garden and just listen to the wind. I don't feel heavy anymore. I don't feel bitter. I feel light. Letting go did that. I didn't win by getting loud. I didn't win by taking revenge. I won by walking away, and I found peace, not in hurting anyone, but in finally choosing myself.